Hello, everyone, and welcome to the eighth episode of the Masters with Harshith podcast. Today, we have with us Gagan, who is a consultant at Ernst& Young, and he was also my senior at NIT Warangal. Hi, Gagan, and welcome to this episode.
Hey Harshith, thank you for having me on this episode.
So, for those of you who do not know, Gagan is like my senior from NIT Warangal, and he graduated even before I joined college. But since we were part of the same literary and debating club, so in one of the farewell events, that's when I met him, and we'd ever stayed in touch. So when I was applying for my master's, I reached out to Gagan to understand what different universities are offering and what the course structure is and what the course structure is like and what the career outcomes are like. So, Gagan, thank you for all the guidance you've given me and the amazing people you've mentored as well. So, Gagan, the first thing that we see, right, when you go on to his profile on LinkedIn is that he's a consultant without an MBA, which is amusing to a lot of people, including me, because we've always assumed that only MBA candidates or MBA students get into consulting. So, what was your gateway into consulting, Gagan, and how did you get into it?
Uh, I wouldn't say there's a magical gateway to get through it, very honestly, but yeah, it was tougher than the regular routes that a lot of people take. So I would say into consulting, there's two general ways to go about it. So one is the undergrad route where kids are taken straight up from undergrad and they get into consulting firms, or when you do an MBA, because uh, both of these fields are chosen very specifically because undergrad kids from undergrad are deemed more trainable. So, and consulting requires you to do a lot of like different kinds of training and understand because it involves dealing with different clients on a regular basis. So, as an undergrad, it's slightly easier. And MBA, you're deemed to know the business world more. So, it's like easier for you to integrate yourself. So, now when you do a master's, it's slightly more difficult because they think you're very technical and it's slightly more difficult for you to integrate yourself into a consulting firm. So just I think it was more about selling yourself the right way, and that's what is important. So I think it's all about like when you set up, when a lot of people talk about the power of your brand, and you should be very careful about how you go about branding yourself. And that's what I did. So from the time I've landed in the United States, my aim has only been to get into consulting. I did do a few jumps in between, did a few different things, but eventually it was that. So when your end goal is that you try to like figure out and try to mirror things that like
Correct.
what is different that an MBA student is doing that you are not able to do. So just try to get on the same path, and I think I replicated a lot of those processes to get there. But of course, I didn't want to do an MBA because I wanted to keep that option open in case I wanted to pivot out of this. So,
Right.
and I believe masters is a big way of like pivoting out of like your current career or something which you don't like. So yeah, that's why I did in masters and continued on into consulting and eventually got there, I would say.
Got it. That's great, Gagan. So you did your undergrad in electrical engineering, and then you did your master's at Northeastern. I think it was engineering/industrial management, and then you moved to consulting. So what was this transition like, and like how did you figure out that you wanted to do consulting after you did your electrical engineering? Was there like a job you did? What was it that it hit you that I want to do consulting? Like this is what I like doing.
Yeah, I think yeah, this is a question which is not asked very often, but yeah. So as usual, as every kid who does engineering in India, I got into an IT firm and I got into a coding job. So I
Right.
started coding in Java and SQL and all of those things, and uh, I was good at coding, but it never made me wake up on a Monday morning excited that yeah, I'm going to be doing like code or work. It was just I was doing it right. So and there's this point in when I was in Capgemini, and that's where I was working. There, I was given a few opportunities to translate functional requirements from the client and load it as user stories. So that's when I realized that I kind of enjoy the business side of it or the functional side of it. So uh, got a slight opportunity, but not that much of a big one with Capgemini, where I started being a techno-functional lead. So where like I was touching on the functional side of it, translating it, and making sure that the stories were loaded. And of course, I had to code as well. But yeah, that's where the transition started.
That was
Uh,
the little spark that you needed
yeah,
was
that was
right
a little
there.
spark. I wouldn't say like it made me decide on consulting, but
Hmm.
uh, then when I started transitioning out of Capgemini,
Hmm.
that was a big struggle, right? Because in
Okay.
India, nobody wants to hire someone into a business role who's had coding experience. They're like, you to get into business roles, you need prior business knowledge, and
Right.
to have business knowledge, you need to be in the business roles, right? So
Right.
now, how do you make that gap? Uh, like, how do you lessen that gap? But
Correct. Correct.
it was tougher, and then eventually I got a couple of breaks, and one of them which I really liked was a startup called Casa
Hmm.
One, and
Hmm.
they're an American furniture rental company, and they offered me to work in their operations division as a business analyst. So
Okay.
yeah, I think when I went there and I started analyzing data and making sense of it, like how can we like churn more results for the business, that's when I
Right.
realized, yeah, I think business is what I like. I like transforming like large scale operations. I like looking at different things, like trying to come up with simple solutions for very, very complex problems.
Hmm.
And growing up, as I grew up, I've always loved playing chess, right? So, and like I've
Okay.
always figured out like how can you strategize better to get to like point A to point B. So how can you
Hmm.
win better every time you like try to win? So yeah, just those two things. I think I put that together, started Googling, and that's where I would recommend everybody to start. And then I
Right.
realized like that's when I came across a field called consulting. And I was like,
Hmm.
hey, this seems
This
like a
helps.
place where, yeah. And plus, for me, it fit in very well because I thought I would be some sort of a unicorn over there because I understand technical stuff as
Hmm.
well as have a good grasp of business. But
Right.
one thing that I lacked was like a stronger theoretical knowledge around business. So more
Right.
stronger courses around finance and understanding how revenue can be actually generated from basing all of these results. So
Hmm.
took up a master's to come to United States and Northeastern University. So I did engineering management, but I specialized in economic decision making. So I was
Interesting.
graduate certificate in economic decision making, and I've taken most of my courses around finance. So like I've focused primarily around finance subjects, and
Okay.
I think that's where I built up most of my gaps around, hey, how does revenue make an actual impact, and how can you impact the revenues through your business decisions? And
Got
that's what is important. So subjects like pricing and revenue
Okay,
or
we'll just
cost
come back to
management.
this because you've
Yeah,
mentioned a lot of things, and I want to like dissect each and every bit of it because I
yeah,
feel like if someone's watching this video, right, and they were to like try to understand how they can like kind of replicate your journey or see where their journey, like where they stand in their journey, right? So they might have n different paths, and I want to understand like how you chose your path. So I think from what I understood, the switch you did after Capgemini, that was like the most instrumental thing for you to understand that this is what I want to do, right? So how did you land that job in the first place? Like what was it that so how did you convince that company that I come from this background but I want to do this? How did that work for you?
so it was a tough thing because Capgemini had a 3 month notice,
Okay.
and nobody wants to hire somebody 3 months later in India, especially when the workforce is always surplus and there's always
Right.
somebody available.
Correct.
So that was the first challenge where you have to convince organizations that, hey, like I will work for you in 3 months and I will give you results after that. Uh, so I took a risk and I resigned without having a job, or like I was just like, I
No
don't
way.
like this. Yeah, yes, I did it. Like, and
Okay.
I'm very thankful to have very supportive parents because I honestly went back and asked them like, hey, would you be okay if you had a son just laying around in the house like without a job? Would you be okay
Right.
in case
Right.
I don't find a job? And my parents were a little uh, they were a little
Hesitant.
concerned,
Probably.
but then they
Right.
were like,
Absolutely.
they trusted my judgment, and which was fine because I got a job right after it, so there was no issues there. But at that point, that was the support I needed, and they provided
Hmm.
that. And when I started interviewing, right, it was really tough to like get full time offers, especially someone who pays the amount that Capgemini were paying me. So now what I started doing was, as a side thing, I started applying for internships. I started applying
Oh.
for unpaid internships.
Okay. Okay.
And and towards the end of this, when I was on the like on the phase of making a decision. I had an offer from Zomato. I had an offer
Mm-hmm.
from the startup. The offer from the startup came on the day when I was actually going to sign for Zomato. And I was like all set to do it.
Crazy.
And then this startup came up with this offer for an internship. It was like much lesser than
Oh.
what I was earning.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, yeah, we just want you to load you on as an intern and then we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
And of course, the internship eventually got converted very quickly into a full-time job where I was working there. But it was a crazy risk move, but it made sense for me because I felt just working in an organization which offers me a lot more, lot lesser bureaucracy and lot more on-hands approach around the operation side of things. That's where I think like I was like, hey, I'll learn more about the business than I'll ever could. And second thing, what was very important was I always wanted to get to the United States. Casa
Right.
One operated in the United States. So that gave me an ability to understand what the US market looks like, what the vendors are like, what the suppliers are like. Now, to be very clear, I didn't want to get into supply chain at this point either. At any
Interesting.
point during
Okay.
this conversation, I've not mentioned supply chain. I've never
Yeah, yeah,
wanted,
yeah. Right.
but by some chance, like when I was at Capgemini, I was working on projects where I was building out ERP systems for supply chain and finance modules. When I
Oh.
joined the startup Casa One, I was working on a
Hmm.
lot of that inventory modeling, which is again a form
Hmm.
of supply chain. Somehow I've always been involved in it, but
Right.
I've always treated it as a form of a business, and I've always
Right.
looked at it
Right.
which I
Correct.
think good. Yeah,
I think what you've mentioned are very, very interesting things. And even for those who do not want to pursue the masters, right? Just in terms of like, if you know this is not what you want to do, there has to be an element of risk taking, right? So I think you clearly mentioned that you took that and it has paid off very, very, very well, to be
I
honest,
think
right?
I think I'll summarize it, and I say this to a lot of people. It's like, see, you don't know what doors to open, right? Especially when you're trying
Mm,
to figure things out. You don't know exactly which door to open. I would say start shutting down doors. That's the easiest approach to take.
absolutely.
So, like,
Absolutely.
if you don't like something, make sure you shut it down and move on to a next thing. Like, there's always better opportunities. I was I was lucky to figure it out in my N+1 iteration,
Mm,
but then like somebody
it might
might
take
take
more.
3, 4.
Absolutely.
So, but it's just very important to like start shutting and start trying those different things. Because if you stay put in one place, you're not going to be. It's not going to serve you any
I
purpose.
think you're just going to get complacent with what you have and you won't
Yep.
have the motivation. And I think another thing I find very interesting in your story is I feel like if you had not resigned from your job, you would not have done what you've done right now. Because
No.
you would, yeah, because I feel like that is the biggest problem with startups as well, right? Like the reason people don't start up that often in India is because you've got a regular paying job and there's a risk you've got to take of leaving your job and doing something full time. You're not sure if it'll reward you well enough or
Yeah.
not. So
Yeah.
I completely get what you're saying. Thank you for that. So
Yeah.
okay, so Gagan, moving on. So you worked in at the American furniture store, like the company, the rent company, and then you applied for your masters, right? So that's the next step. So at this point, you'd already done a bit of work indirectly, I would say, not directly in supply chain, like handling some kind of analysis or like business analyst for supply chain. So when you were applying for your masters, what kind of programs were you looking for? And like probably if you remember when all you applied for, because I understand it's already been like 4 years probably since you applied, right? So
It's
what
been 5 years now. So yeah,
five
but then
years?
I
Crazy.
remember.
Okay,
So
please, yeah.
I did intensive research around this, and
Okay, okay.
yeah, I didn't. I didn't. Firstly, I didn't sign up for any consultancy or any
Mm-hmm.
sort of help, and I would recommend not doing that because at the end of the day, you're doing your masters, and you should be like fully control about like where you're doing and what you're doing.
Correct.
Because I think just doing your own research just gives you a more better perspective of what you actually want. And I would say, by my experience, even 5 years ago, was everything's available on Google. So right now, it must be even more available on Google. And plus,
Absolutely.
there's a lot of people like there's good content being put out. Even this one, for example. So it's like
Right.
good, easy to like refer and like get to know these things. But uh, coming back to the question about which universities did I apply to, I applied to around the. So how did I go about this whole thing? Was I wanted to get into engineering management because as I said earlier as well, I didn't want to do an MBA, but I wanted to do an intermediary course between
Between
an MBA.
technical and right.
Yes. Second thing was right now there's a lot of MBA options with STEM on it, which allows you the 3 years of OPT.
Right.
But back then, there were not that many options. There's like maybe 1 or 2 courses. So
Right.
if you wanted a STEM extension, MS was the best way about it. So those two things considered, I decided to master engineering management. And I was focused on engineering management because I thought it gave me a good, as I said, the techno-functional, and that's what I wanted
Right.
to sell myself as to organizations as well.
Got it. Right.
And I wanted to focus on two things. So for me, I was very keen on getting into a university which had really good brand value, because generally better brand value involves like a lot of recruiters knowing your universities, or they have connections. It's slightly easier. Now, this is something that I figured out. It's not very common across United States, but sitting in India, that's what I thought. So that was my
Right.
first focus area. And second focus area, I would say, was the course. And I was very particular about this because when I did my undergrad, I didn't have that choice. And
I understand.
going
Yes.
yes, and you would relate to this. Going to NIT
Correct.
Warangal, you're just given a certain subjects, and you just
Right.
have to do it. And I didn't
Yeah.
want to do the same mistake again. So I
Correct.
was very particular about those things. And I think somewhere two other things was location was very important to me. I wanted to stay in a metro city because my undergrad was like not in a city, so I wanted
Right.
that experience as well. And also another thing was the ranking was really important because I wanted to have a good ranked university. So these were the four things. I even like researched about the weather, the monthly change, like what the
That was a lot
all
of
of that.
detail. That's a lot of
That was
detail
a
you
lot of
did.
detail. Yeah.
Right.
So all of that put together. So yeah, so that was the point of research. And of course, who gave me admits? Now, if you don't give me an admit, I can't do anything.
Correct.
So
Correct.
yeah, so I applied. I think I went again a very risky strategy. So I applied about like 5 or 6 which were ambitious, like around 3 or 4 which were like moderate, and only 1 or 2 which were like safe universities
kind of,
for
right?
get in. Yes. But also one thing I did was, which a lot of people miss out, I don't know if they still do it, is a lot of universities offer waivers for GRE, TOEFL, as well as for the course, as well as for the application fee if you just attend the seminar a few months before. So
Right.
I attended all of the seminars and I got discounts on most of these applications.
Crazy.
So
Okay.
yeah, so I saved, I would say in Indian rupees, about 1.5 lakhs in that because I didn't have to
Easily,
send
right.
TOEFL scores or GRE scores. I just had to upload copies of it. They
Right.
required it, but they didn't require me sending it at the time of the
Directly
application.
from ETS to them,
Yes.
basically.
Yes,
Got it.
and some
Interesting.
of them gave me application waivers as well. About 3 universities gave me application waivers as well. But it's
Interesting.
you have to
Right.
sit through the seminar. You have to sit through the whole orientation.
They
And
might just
towards
throw
the
it
end
somewhere
of
in the middle where you've got to.
yeah, generally
Yeah.
towards the end of it, that's when they'll give it, which is
Got
worth it, I would say. Like you get to
Absolutely.
know what the
Absolutely.
university is offering,
Right.
as well as yeah. So in terms of the list, do you want me to run through the list, or what do you want
Maybe
me to
just a couple of universities from there. Maybe that would be helpful, so that someone who's like applying for something like you're doing,
Of course,
they would know
yeah.
like what
So
to look
I
at.
would say I was focused on East Coast because that's where a lot of consulting firms are. So Northeastern University, New York University, then Purdue, then USC, then George Washington,
Right.
Rochester Institute of Technology,
Right.
Duke, Cornell. So these would, I
Okay.
would say, were like the top ones on top of my head.
Got it. So where all did you get admits, and what made you pick Northeastern amongst all of those?
So I would say the highest ranked university which I got picked off for engineering management was NYU and NEU, so Northeastern
Okay.
University.
Right.
And I chose Northeastern University because I believe top 3 of the biggest consulting firms have their headquarters here. So
In
Bain,
Boston.
BCG,
In Boston, right?
yeah,
Interesting. Right. I
yeah.
think that's
So
in contrary to like tech companies and like finance companies which are in New York. I think most of the consulting companies are in Boston. So anyone
exactly.
who's watching it, if you're trying to get in consulting, probably Boston's a really good place to
Yes.
be in.
So yeah, BCG has Boston in its name itself. So yeah, I was like,
Absolutely.
yeah. So that was a big factor in it because if I was trying to make a career in software, I would definitely go to West Coast, like
Makes
because
sense.
you're in that environment, right? It's slightly
Correct.
easier. But
Correct.
yeah, and this is all you're making assumptions sitting in India, right? You're sitting like 8,000
Right.
away and you're figure this out. So
Right.
yeah. And at that point, I went to Northeastern's course structure, and there were like a couple of professors who I really liked, and it
Mm-hmm.
proved out to be true. The courses I took under them was amazing. So
Right.
yeah, overall, that made the decision towards that. But in the end, I was very dicey between that and George Washington, because
Mm-hmm.
George Washington offered me a course in economic and cost, focused towards economics and cost. And
Right.
that was a very niche course where they take less than 10 students every semester. So,
Oh, crazy.
yeah, so it was a very difficult choice, but I think I
Yeah.
stuck to Northeastern, and I'm pretty happy with my decision, how it's turned out.
That's nice. That's nice. So, Gagan, you were mentioning about like before I cut you off, a couple of minutes ago. So you're talking about your courses, and like we've had like people from I think Dartmouth have already come on this podcast, and I find like the structure, the course structure you're talking about to be very different. So, how many semesters do you have, and what kind of courses are you allowed to choose? Like, what is it like for you at
Yeah, so
Northeastern?
Northeastern is very different, and that's what makes it very unique. Is that
Mhm.
so? First of all, we have the core program, which is very famous. So
Right.
your ability to work for 4, 6, or 8 months like differentiates you from everyone else, because you're able to make industry contacts when you're in your masters. So that's one thing.
Right.
Uh,
So,
Back
sorry,
then,
could you just explain a little more about the co-op for people who do not know about it?
yeah.
So, like,
So co-op is a cooperative program where it's basically like your university allows you to fully utilize your CPT, which you get when you come for your master's. So CPT allows you to work up to 360 days while you're doing your master's. So full
oh,
time. So that's when
360
like,
days, got it. Like a
yes.
year based,
So
almost.
yeah. So Northeastern, if you're in the engineering management program, you can work up to 8 months at a employer full time. So
Full time.
yeah,
Crazy.
so I did 7 months of my co-op at Dell,
Right.
and yeah, you're pretty much earning like a full-time person. You stay there for 7 months, so like
Got
you get
it.
integrated pretty well, and then because you stay there for so long, if you deliver good results,
They'll
you're
directly hire you.
yeah, there's higher chances of getting hired for sure. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so I think that was one of the things. So basically, and the good thing about Northeastern, they don't charge you fees when you're on your co-op. So it's like
Oh.
you're just doing your internship at that time. So and then you
So, out
come
of,
back and
right, out of 2 years, so you're doing this for like 7 or 8 months, is it? So, the,
so that's why my master's was 2.5 years. I joined in January of
okay.
2019, and I
Mm-hmm.
graduated in May of 2021. So it's almost 2 years,
Okay.
5 months, because
Got it.
between there was one semester and the summer where I was on co-op.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Got it.
so so a lot of people choose to not extend their course, so we call it extending our course in Northeastern. So you extend it
Got
from
it.
a 2 years to 2.5 years, but a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
even try to finish it early as well. So you
Hmm.
load up on subjects. So I stuck with the bare minimum, where I did only two subjects per semester, but a lot of others like try to do 3 or 4 or take up course in the summer as well. So
Got it.
but I kept my summers just so that I could focus on either the job search or just do on campus. So those were the things I did. I wanted to like take my time through my masters, because firstly I
Hmm.
wanted to like learn as much as I can, and
Not just
secondly like
cram stuff up, right?
exactly, and secondly like I didn't want to do the masters just for doing a masters, because I
Got
felt
it.
I did that when I was doing my engineering. So
Hmm.
I wanted to make sure I was very focused, took up the subjects that I liked. Grades were important, but not the end of the world. So it was more focused towards learning, making sure I got the right knowledge,
Right.
and also applications. Spent a lot of time researching about what companies do I want, where I want to go to, and all of those things.
Hmm.
And of course, a lot of extracurriculars as well, because I believe character development is really important. So focused on that as well.
Right. So I'll come back to that part separately because I've seen your LinkedIn profile. I've heard a lot about your leadership and stuff like that. So we'll get back to that. So so what was it? What are the subjects you took at Northeastern, and what kind of tailoring are you allowed in the engineering management program at Northeastern?
So we have like 4 core subjects that you have to take, but a lot of
Hmm.
these subjects can be waived off as well. Again, this was
Okay.
something that I didn't know. I found out. So if you've
Hmm.
taken prop stats already in your undergrad, and you can prove it, you've taken it from a good accredited university, so you can
Hmm.
get it waived off. So you don't have to do it as a core course. So that
Got it.
opens up another slot for an elective
Another
that you.
subject,
Yeah.
right?
So I did 4 of the core courses, which are around prop stats, operations research, program management,
Hmm.
project management, and economic decision making. Those are the four
Okay.
core courses. But also,
Right.
I focused a lot on financial management for engineers, uh, cost reduction subjects. So fintech engineering, which
Right.
involves a lot of like how do you actually like write codes for options, stock trading, and all of those things. And
Wow. Okay.
pricing and revenue management focused around like how does search pricing work, how do plane ticket pricing work, how do Uber prices work,
This
how does that
sounds very
impact revenue?
interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, and involves a lot of mathematics, involves a lot of business. You got to compile all of that together to make sense out of it. But yeah, very
Right.
interesting subjects, very difficult to deal with. But those were the courses I chose. I chose to challenge myself, especially
Correct.
because towards the end of I got a full time offer like about 8 months before I graduated. So
Hmm.
it allowed me to like push on and do tougher
More
courses because
study more. Makes sense. Makes
yeah,
sense.
because
Yeah.
I was like,
You got
might as
nothing
well.
to lose at that point, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
you're paying the
grades
fee.
don't
Might as
matter to
well.
me. Yeah,
Absolutely. It's all
yeah.
about learning. I completely understand. Right. So, Gagan, if you had not done what you've done, like the subjects you've taken, so what are the different other options that people who are applying for the engineering management can do? Because I think they can get into product management in different roles, right? So what other
So I
courses can they
think
do?
there is no set path for consulting. So that's why I chose the
Mhm.
economic decision making. And I wanted to focus on finance. But
Okay.
there are especially Northeastern's really good. They offer they give you another certificate as well, along with your degree, if you
Hmm.
specialize in something. So in
Okay.
Northeastern, there's like 3, 4 specialization. One of them is economic decision making. Other one
Hmm.
is supply chain. That
Hmm.
you get a certification if you take certain courses in supply chain.
Right.
You get data analytics as well. That's another track you can
Hmm.
do. You can also do PM or project management track where you take a lot of these
Right.
product management, project management, how do you build like businesses around that. So
Products. Right.
those
Right. Right.
those, those kind of courses as well. But then these are the 3 or 4 major tracks that a lot of people take. There's a generalized track as well, but then it's very open. Like engineering management at Northeastern, you can take up courses from the Corey School, which is the computer science school as well. So if you want to do
Right.
algorithms, you're well and good to do it as well. It's
So
just
you got the freedom to choose from anything.
exactly. So it's just where do you want to be an engineering manager in? Do you want to be in like a business bioinformatics engineering manager? You can take up subjects very close to bioinformatics as well. Or
Hmm.
you want to be in a computer science field in a tech company, you can take up subjects around that so that you're well versed in technically, but you also have the business understanding of it. So that's the flexibility Northeastern allowed, and that's the reason why I was like, hey, if I don't like this, I can also pivot out of it, which I didn't, but it's a good
Right.
flexibility to have.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's very interesting. So, Gagan, how many students were there in the? Do you remember your class size? Like, how many students were there, and what kind of students? Like, what kind of profiles they had, kind of a thing, maybe.
Yeah,
I know it's
it's
been a
it's a
while.
little wild. I'm going to be very blatant about this. So it's
Right. No worries.
yeah. So Northeastern's intake is absolutely wild, and you will come here and you'll realize like it's like a mini India out here. So
Okay.
yeah, so the engineering management and the information systems is one of the most highly uh, populated courses. So you get every semester about 300 to 500 kids coming in.
Got
Uh,
it. Right.
and most of them are grad students, and most of them are either from India or China. So that's
Right.
what the
Right.
demographics look like.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. So, Gagan, you went in with work experience, right? Were there students without work experience as well who were entering into the program, or how was the mix like?
Yes, there were. So I think a lot of this kids, I would say more than 50% or 60% were without work
Mhm.
X or less than 1 year of work X in the
Got
program.
it. Right. So how much did the course approximately cost you? And like, did you do any RA-ship or TA-ship, or like, how did you fund your degree? What was that like for you?
I think the course, like when you get your I-20, it costs about like 60,000 with
Hmm.
all of it put together, including housing and everything. No,
Hmm.
just this the course itself and plus a few things will cost you around 60,000. But
Okay.
so I funded myself. I got myself a loan, fully funding myself to do
Okay.
it from SBI. But
Hmm.
I only took around 20 lakhs from there. So that's
Hmm.
around like $25,000.
Right.
Rest of it, I funded it myself. So
Hmm.
either it was so I got an on-campus job in my first month itself. Uh, I
Okay.
worked
Interesting. Right.
I worked in the senior vice president of finance and treasury's office for
Right.
the 2 years that I was there,
Right.
and I did an internship as well, which paid decently. So all of that money put together, I was able to fund my stay as well as the 3 semesters tuition fees.
Very interesting. So you literally just took out a 20 lakh rupee loan and you were able to fund the whole thing without that. I think that's something a lot of students would want to hear,
Yep.
because everyone's like, how do we manage the financials? That is the only reason we cannot move to the US for a master. So nice
Yeah.
talk on that.
So I
Right.
think that there was a trick which, like, so for example, right, like I'm telling you, it's all about preparation, and that's very important. So
Right.
even my on campus, right, I knew like, so I knew one of the skills that is very easy to pick up and very hot is WordPress. Like
Hmm.
every organization has a website built on WordPress.
Right.
A lot of people don't know how to like use it, or they want
Right.
somebody to just do it. And these are a lot of these on-campus jobs available. So
Hmm.
what I did was, like 3 or 4 months before I came, I just built out a website using WordPress. And when I used to put these applications for on-campus job, I would just be like, hey, I've
This is a
built a
link for that.
website. Yeah, like just check it out.
Very smart. Very smart. I
Yeah,
like that.
and
Right.
yeah, and within a first month, I got a couple of calls and I got hired into this role because
Right.
there was the living example. Now, the investment took, like, again, I didn't have that much money. So at that time, when you look at it in Indian rupees, you're like, do I need to pay for domain fees? Do I need to pay for hosting? Like, this is all a lot of money. But
Right.
overall, thinking about it, like, it made sense.
Paid
So,
off very, very well. It's a
yeah.
multiplier return.
Yeah. So there are two approaches, right? Either you can be like, hey, I want an on-campus job and just crib about it, or do something about how can you make yourself you have the right skills. It applies same to
Right.
the market as well.
Right. Absolutely. I think one thing I'm understanding, like throughout your journey, is you're someone who likes to be in control of what you're doing. So you plan the future, this is where I want to get, and you like craft everything to get there. I think that's
Yeah.
very interesting, and it's very very personally appealing to me as well,
try.
because that's the way. That's absolutely. So you can try, right? That's the best we can do. Rest, it's not not everything's in our hands. So
Yeah.
I love that aspect of what you've been talking about. Okay, so Gagan, we've talked about everything about your university, and like now you entered into the workplace, right? So you did not enter into consulting directly. You went into, I think, something into supply chain, and then you moved into consulting. So how did you get that first supply chain job, and how did you move into consulting after?
Yeah, so I was interviewing for a few companies for my co-op, and I had it's a very funny story. So I had my last round with McKinsey, and I was pretty pumped. And I'm glad I didn't get that job because it was slightly more technical than I wanted it. But I was so desperate because I was not getting calls from any consulting firm that I was ready to pick it up. And towards the last round, when it came down to another person and me, like I got rejected because they felt they wanted someone who's more technically apt, like who was fully into understanding what code was. So I was really bummed, and then that
consultant role. Sorry.
Yeah, it was over a consulting. It was a techno consulting internship at McKinsey.
Got it. Right.
So, yeah, but then for me, it was like it was a route into McKinsey, right?
Yeah, it was a door that once you get in, you can go anywhere.
I had been applying to every single internship, and nobody was calling me. So I was getting calls from everywhere else except consulting firms, and I was like, this is really frustrating. And like, and so yeah, then Dell came along. That same day I got rejected, I had my interview with Dell, and I gave my interview, and they had this job listed out in their supply chain team. And one of the questions they asked me was, why do you want to apply to this? And the reason I gave was, see, I know a lot of people over here have specialized in supply chain. I've not taken even course in supply chain, but I think this is a very business focused role. And I think you want somebody who can like look at what's happening inside and transform things within your team. And that's what exactly they wanted. So the interview went well. I got into Dell for my internship. So I got into Dell EMC. So not the computer side of things, but where we build our big server. Yeah. So worked there for 7 months. Did a pretty decent job. So I got a full-time offer from them as well within a few months. But the thing was, I continued applying for consulting firms as well. But
because you always knew consulting is what you wanted.
Yeah, because I thought like now Dell could be a stepping stone to get there, or it could be, or it could lead to something else. But I didn't want to stay in core supply chain at that time. Still, again, I was not. I loved the field. I did my internship, but it was not something I still believed I belonged in the
consulting field.
Strategy and transactions, mergers and acquisitions. That's what I wanted to be.
Right.
But then once I got my full-time offer, and then my H1B got picked up when I was in grad school itself. So
Oh
yes,
wow, this is a dream, dude. This is a dream
yeah,
come true for a lot of people, right?
could be because at that time I was in final rounds with my interviews with Bain and BCG, and
Wow.
yeah, and at that time I was I strongly considered leaving my H1B so that I could go there because
Oh,
I
okay.
was like I wouldn't maybe I might not get that opportunity again. Like
Right.
and uh, but after speaking with a lot of different thinking about it, like putting the probability of odds into place of picking up
Hmm.
getting yourself picked up again in a lottery, taking a very mathematical and logical decision, I chose
Very,
to.
I think,
Yeah, and
right,
it was not like I didn't like Dell. I loved Dell. I loved the
right. But
people
this was
there.
something that you always want to do for a long time, right? This is
Yeah,
like,
and the thing was, I was able to talk with Dell, and I was able to get a very consulting type role in Dell itself. So,
there you
like,
go. Right.
yeah, yeah. So I was an internal consultant doing a lot of their consulting stuff for the
Hmm.
supply chain team itself. So
Right.
it worked out well for me.
Hmm.
But there's somewhere in the back of my head, I think I wanted to get into consulting, and
Hmm.
I continued on in that process, and EY just happened, I would say.
Right. I think your story is like being very pragmatic. It's a very, very nice and interesting story, I think. Thank you so much for sharing it.
Of
So
course.
that's nice. That's nice. So at the end of the day, everything falls into place. You just have to put the effort and you have to be consistent with what you're doing.
Yep.
So, Gagan, two things we still haven't talked about. One is leadership that you've been doing. So it's probably out of context for this particular series, but I just want to understand more about it because it sounds very interesting. You've taken up leadership positions from middle school, at high school, at NIT Warangal, at your workplace, and even at your masters, right? So, as someone who served in the President Council in my school and the Student Council in NIT Warangal, this sounds very interesting and very familiar. So, what was it that, do you think this actually added a lot of value to what you were doing and what you thought you would do as a consultant? Or did you just do this out of passion? Or, like, what was it that like for you?
I think it was a mix of both.
Hmm.
Uh, I I went there like as one of the ways to like everyone talked about networking, right? And
Right.
I turned up there to network. That was
Got it.
literally my reason. And then when I
Right.
went there, I realized there are a lot of these issues. Like now, I believe like subconsciously this is where my consulting brain kicked into place, where it was like
Mhm.
I saw a lot of these issues in the grad school government, which could be solved very quickly and easily. Like, but if
Right.
somebody just decided to do it, so
Right. You got to take
and
initiative.
yeah, just take up the initiative, right? And
Right.
uh, me and my team, we were able to achieve things which Northeastern has not seen like so far in like their years, and we've taken the grad school government to levels which we didn't even think we could.
Right. I
And
remember seeing those LinkedIn posts, you guys like putting out stats like this is what we've actually accomplished.
yeah,
And that's the sign that someone actually done something unless you show figures like we went from X to Y. I think
yeah,
that's a consulting in my head again, if I'm not wrong.
yeah.
That you need to show the numbers, right?
No, I've always been open about. Even now, if you open my LinkedIn, like it's
Hmm.
it's very clear what I proposed in my manifesto on day one when I took
Right.
term to what we achieved. Like, and
Right.
I've
Right.
always made sure we've hit those targets, and
Right.
that was always the goal. So yeah, I took up this as a twofold thing. One was
Hmm.
like very personal because I wanted to make a difference. I saw a lot of grad students struggling in Northeastern University
Hmm.
through some things could be very solved very
Easily
easily.
solved.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
And and by the grace of God, like I have a good voice about me. I can put out my thoughts very well.
Right.
So I chose to channel it in the right direction. So yeah. And secondly, of course, there was a very personal selfish reason as well. I think somewhere going after growing up in Dubai and then going back to India, just I think I lost a lot of my speaking prowess where I was
Hmm.
like I was much more eloquent about my words, my vocabulary was much more better. So I thought just being in a leadership position helped me shape that or like make it more sharper than what it
Got
was.
it.
So
Yeah.
and being a president of the grad school, you're pretty much speaking every day with people, or you're
Yeah.
like you're building relationships, or you're like putting up speeches and you're like trying to tackle different problems very quickly. And
Brilliant.
this is literally what I do in consulting. So it
No, I
translates
feel
straight into
like
that.
all for you, all roads lead to consulting.
Yeah,
Like
like
everything you've done, it just fits in the picture, and I
no,
think that's what.
it's the small things that matter, right?
Mm,
So it's like you've got to like when people say they missed the trick is not the big thing. It's about doing these
mm.
small things right.
They
And
all add up,
yeah, they all add up. It's like
right?
positioning yourself for success. Success doesn't just come one day overnight.
Right, right,
Like
right.
there have been days of and hours and months. Like for example, a simple example like WordPress, right?
Mm,
Like it wouldn't have happened if I didn't spend those days like building up my website, like
right.
watching those videos, trying to make sense of it, right? But what people see is a result of it. Like he got an on-campus
Correct.
job, but not
They don't
the
see the hard work behind that.
yeah. So I think what like everyone's got to understand is you've got to put in those hours and you've got to like make sense of what's happening over here. Like
Right.
that's the only way, and you've got to be very focused with what you're coming for a master's. Like you
Mm.
are supposed to be more
Studying.
mature and intelligent, and you've got to be
Right.
very focused. I'm not saying don't have fun. I've had my bunch of fun, but it's got to be in a very focused way. That's what it's.
Right. You've got to know what you're there for. Everything is secondary. Do that. Do not miss out on the college life, but also, like,
Yeah.
make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do. Got it. So, Gagan, I just want to ask. So, one of the biggest questions people have is, how much does the university help you in getting a job, right? So, it's completely different in India and the US, and like we've spoken about that through the episodes. I just wanted to know. So, especially since NEU has the co-op program, does NEU give any extra support for you to land your co-op, or is it like just like how I'm applying for my internship right now? Go up on Google, LinkedIn, and how's that like
Uh,
at NEU?
So it's not as easy as how it's in India. So
Mm.
anyone coming from India, don't take it for granted that there's going to be companies coming and just like pick you up and go off. So
Right,
it's a lot. I mean, you know this. It's a lot more tougher
absolutely. It's
to go
it's
about it.
it's a struggle. It's a
Yeah,
consistent struggle and a long time thing. Yeah,
it's a competition. It's like you've
correct.
got to like position yourself better than others who are competing, and
Mm.
very fair playing ground. Like everyone has those skills, and you have to like make sure that you put it out there and you've turned up on the day of the interview. So that's what it is.
Right.
But Northeastern does a lot more than a lot of other universities. So we have a compulsory course called the co-op course, which is a 1 credit subject.
Mhm.
We spend a whole semester, either your first or your second semester, where we curate our resumes, we do group discussions, we do group interviews, we do one-on-one interviews, we do all of these things with a guided professor and a
Okay.
professor who's like rating our course, our work, our resumes, and all of these things. So that's
Right.
one thing. Secondly, we have a career center which is even open as an alumni. So as an alumni, I can go back anytime if I'm struggling to find a job. So
Interesting. Okay.
uh,
Okay.
it is available all the time throughout all
Mhm.
working days in Northeastern, where they
Mhm.
will curate your resume to whatever you want, to whatever extent you want. So for example, in my case, I took up 6 job descriptions in consulting world, took my resume, went and put it there and went like, hey, these are the JDs I want to apply to. This is my resume. Does it make sense? And they literally
Crazy.
will point out line by line saying, hey, this doesn't make sense for this job. This doesn't make sense for this job. So there's a
Right.
lot of conversations that you can have around careers. Thirdly,
Mm.
their core program is very robust, but because there's a lot of more intake, it's become a
It's
lot less.
competitive
It's
again.
it's more
Right.
competitive than before, but
Right.
you have a lot of these firms who are affiliated with Northeastern University, so
Mm.
they will pick up co-ops from there regardless. For example, Dell EMC, like
Mhm.
EMC stands for Egan, Marino, and Carey. Egan and Marino have halls named in Northeastern after them. So yeah,
Oh, now
so
I know.
yeah, so they have
Right.
a straight up tie with Northeastern, like
Got it.
so they will come and pick up kids from there. So if you do well
Mhm.
and if you do your interviews well, you will get a job over there, like
Makes
as a
sense.
co-op, not a full time, but as a co-op
Right.
for sure. So
Full time is,
that's
I
where
think, your hand completely how
yeah,
you do, right? So, yeah.
Northeastern does a lot more. Even for your full time, career centers are open. The
Mm.
professors are. I know a lot of professors who've helped out really bright students to connect them with industry leaders. There's a
Mm.
lot of different talks that happen across the university. Like there's a lot of different student clubs who constantly keep organizing like different events where they actually get leaders in place and you can network and connect with them. the job fairs are generally more focused towards software individuals. It's not like, as a consulting fanatic, I didn't find much. As a supply chain enthusiast, I didn't find much. But like, if you're in the software domain, there's a lot of job opportunities over there as well. So, and Boston area has a lot of companies around bioinformatics, healthcare, life sciences. So a lot of those companies come as well. So you get a
Right.
lot of these co-ops around that. So yeah, Northeastern does a lot in that sense. And but then I would, again, just because they do it, don't just come like with prep
Waiting
or
for them
expect everything to be
to be handed over.
handed to you.
Absolutely.
It's not going to happen. You have to go grab it.
Correct, correct. I think that's very important, right? Nothing's going to come to you. You've got to go and get it. So,
Yep.
Gagan, before the one last thing I want to talk about was the podcast you were running, right? So we were talking about it just before we started recording, and it sounded very interesting to me. So for anyone who's watching, Gagan was running a podcast, and I hope he will continue that soon as well. So where he was talking about how he introduces concepts of supply chain and things like that. So Gagan, could you just give a brief about that so people who are watching this and who want to learn more can also have a look at that too?
Yeah. So I have a podcast called Supply Chain Management with GDP. GDP is my
Okay.
acronym. And
Right.
yeah, I realized somewhere like throughout my journey when I started off Capgemini, I started working on ERPs specifically related to supply chain and finance.
Mhm.
When I did operations at Casa One, I was doing a lot of the supply chain work as well. Dell, I did pure supply chain work, and then EY, I'm a supply chain consultant. So I realized I've picked up a lot of this knowledge, and there are a lot of people out there who are still struggling to make sense of what supply chain is, also,
Mhm.
or meet individuals who are like doing well in the supply chain field. So from that, I got an idea to create a podcast. So I had my first season where I interviewed different folks across the industry in different firms talking about what they do in supply chain. And the second season, which concluded earlier this year, I had where I focused on different topics which are very important in the industry. So if you're aiming to be a supply chain consultant, like, or get in as a supply chain manager, like, these are some of the topics that you should know for sure. So, and the USP about my podcast, I would say, is very digestible. It's focused towards the Gen Z audience. So it's only 10
Right.
minutes. So it's very quick.
Interesting.
It's very
Okay.
quick. We'll get through all the topics which are very important, meaty, in a very quick way. So yeah, that's what I focused towards. And I've enjoyed the journey so far, but I recently switched jobs, so I was not able to keep up with the standards
Right.
of like, and plus I wanted to focus more on my personal and social well-being. So yeah, I decided to
Absolutely, absolutely.
take
You've got to take that call. Fair
yeah,
enough. I will still drop the link to that podcast, your channel on the description for this thing as well. So people who want to get a supply chain or in supply chain and want to increase the knowledge can definitely have a look at that.
yep.
So I think that was all I had for you, Gagan. You've given so much of information. You've explained your journey and how different things fit into that, how people can get into consulting, even without an MBA, what is supply chain and all those things. So thank you so much for your time, Gagan. This was wonderful.
Thank you so much, Harshith, for having me, and it was great talking to you. So I hope this
Absolutely.
helps.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gagan. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into another episode of the Masters with Harshith podcast. For those of you who want to apply for your Masters and do not know where to begin, the link to my masterclass is in the description. Please click ahead and you can watch the recorded podcast, the recorded episode of the masterclass, and you will get access to content like a mock resume, a draft SOP, and all those things as well. So thank you for everyone who's tuned into this. Have a great day. Thank you.